All right, let's get back at it. So here's what we're working with. We're gonna be doing some grinding on this guy. I'm not entirely sure if this is gonna end up the way I want it. If that's the case, I'm gonna just have to reforge again. But if this doesn't look like the one that I forged in the last video, it's because it's not. So I took that one and reforged it into something else, because what happened was on the thickness, I was definitely way too thin. I had to grind out a cold shut on the inside here, and by doing that I went too thin in the middle of it. So I figured I would reforge this into something that I could use. So basically it's gonna turn into a little utility knife, a kitchen utility knife, integral bolster. But as I looked at this earlier, I noticed that as I was pushing this bolster around, it tore some of the material in the bolster area of the blade, the transition. So I'm not sure if this is going to work either. I have some ideas to make it work, but looking at it here, I can see it's torn clear up to, it looks like to here, but as I go on the other side, it looks like it's way lower. So until I start grinding into this, I'm really gonna have no idea. So this may work, it may not, um, but we'll see how that goes. Um, this is the one that I'm gonna be working on. So my only concern with this is, so as you can see, I've got plenty of thickness, tons of thickness. I have plenty of length on the blade portion of it. So as you can see, here's my little template. Maybe I might have to heat it up again and push material one way or another. But as for now, this is going to work just fine. But what I need to do first is I need to make sure that, so you can see top down here, that I might be too thin up here for the guard. Again, it's just one of those things that I'm gonna have to start grinding and see what I've got. But my first step is going to be to create a flat that would represent the top of the guard if this was a separate unit. I mean, it's obviously at the top of the guard, but I need to get it flat so that I can make sure that my template is going to fit on the blade here. If not, I'll heat this up and then push material that direction so that, like, if I have to turn it a little bit this way to be perpendicular to the flat, then you can see if I have to do that, then I'm overhanging the material, so I just have to shift it that way a little bit. So I think this should work. So this, I'm probably going to pull down to about here. That looks like where the material starts, becomes its thickest, if you look at it from a top-down view here. So I'll grind sort of flat to there. So this is good because I go flat until the ricasso, and then I kind of drop a little bit. So this is perfect. But I just need to get this flat so that I can make sure this is going to be in the right spot. And I know the tang looks really short, but as you can see, there's plenty of length on there once I get everything ground down, because the guard's only going to be about that thick. So I just wanted to leave enough mass that I could do basically whatever I wanted with this. So as you can see, we're still centered. I have enough thickness on the back side of it, plenty of thickness on the blade. So it's basically just grinding things down and seeing how everything's going to work out. So with all that, why don't we just scoot on over to the grinder and see what we can see. All right, let's get some lights on over here. Got to get the right belt on and the right attachment. Gonna do a flat platen. And a 36 grit that's basically worn out until we get through the forge scale. Then we'll be good. Alright, so scooch on in here and we'll get going on this. I do not know if I still have water in here or maybe it's frozen by now. Who knows? Anyway. Alright. Start by getting some flats on here. On the top of that. At the same time, getting some of this thickness down. Yeah, I gotta grab some gloves. I had to grab some gloves. So, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of looking down just to make sure everything's, centered still. And I haven't twisted things, while at the same time trying to take this flat so that I can get a nice bearing on how far down I need to go. And then as soon as I get that flat, then I can get my shape on here, cut that out, and all that good stuff. Okay. Kind of got this down quite a bit. Sort of where I want it. Sort of close. Let me kick this thing off. So I'm going to go and do a little bit of file work, so just so I can get these corners nice and crisp. Obviously there's a lot of stuff to work on here, but I just want to get these nice and flat, the corners nice and square. That way, because the next thing I want to do is actually figure out if I can get the shape of my blade in this little section without having to move the blade around. I've got this locked in the vise. Yeah, these jaws aren't hardened, but they'll give me enough level and straightness, I guess, to kind of keep an eye on what's going on in here. But basically, I just need to start whittling down on all this. Probably going to be here for a little bit. I'm in no rush. Of course, most of this I want to get done before heat treatment, just so I can use the files. I do not have a file guard that would fit around this, so there's that. I'm trying not to hit the jaws, but it happens. It's kind of hard to do with the camera in the way. So, from what I can tell, we're somewhat close to flat enough. So, I'm going to take off just a little bit more, and then I'm going to pop the template on here to see if we can get our shape without having to reform this blade area. Yeah, we're close enough with that. Let's see if we can get our blade shape in here. So you can see I have a pretty extreme angle right here. And man, I do not know if I've got anything. Yeah, I do. Here we go. Got a little angle. So, man, now I'm concerned about this stupid ricasso. That might be too big of a ricasso. I might have gone a little too deep on that. We'll figure it out. Anyway, so I want the back of the blade, the spine of the blade right here to be perpendicular to the guard. So basically gotta draw a squared up line on the back side of there. And then I think we might be all right. We just might be all right with that. Again, this is one of these things that's kind of hard to see with the camera in your face. So that's pretty close to perpendicular to that line. And all of this is going to fit in there. So we might be good with that. You scooch that back just a hair, like there. Yeah. Okay, now I just got to try to trace this on here. It's kind of hard with this guard on here. Usually everything's flat. So there we go. There's our knife shape on there, or really close to the knife shape. So the next step is I'm going to grind this shape out. A little oversized, just so I can make adjustments where I want them to, but this is pretty close. So obviously I'm going to have to adjust this tang down a little bit, because right now it would basically go the knife through into the tang, and then the tang would shoot up. So let's get this ground out. All right, we're making a pit stop at the bandsaw because I've got a ton of material up here that I could use for spacer, basically. Obviously not enough for a knife, but I do like spacers, Damascus spacers. So let's get this cut out really close. Either this steel isn't quite annealed, or this blade is old. Either way, we're almost there. Oops. Now onto the grinder. I'm going to put my contact wheel on. And then also, we're going to keep the same 36 grit. And also my work rest on here. Actually, you know what? I'm not doing the work rest. But I will show you something really quick. So I do all my profile shaping on the contact wheel, and here's why. So less friction. You heat up the platen really quick because the friction and everything. But there's really no friction on this, so there's nothing to heat up. And the soft rubber tends to cut a little better into the steel. So basically this is what happens. If you set your wheel, and not everybody can do this, either set your wheel height or the work rest height, so it's in line with the center of your the center of the wheel. So you want to do this with like this, something close to the thickness that you're working with. This isn't even close, but it's just for illustration purpose. So you want to put that piece on here and make sure it's straight and shift it all the way to where the center is of your wheel. And this will show you when it's centered with that wheel. So what that does is it makes it so your material hits the apex of the material that you're cutting out. And the wheel's big enough that obviously it's going to create a concave cut into the profile, but it's so small that you can't even tell. If if you were up here and you were cutting out your material, your material wouldn't be flat. The edge wouldn't be flat. It would be angled. So obviously that wouldn't work. But if you get it centered right with the middle, it cuts out the middle, and you don't have an angle on it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it works really well. In this case, I've actually got to readjust my wheel, or I would have to readjust my wheel because I can't set this flat on here. I'd have to put something under it to lift this up so it stays flat. in doing that, it's gonna create this cut to be on an angle or around the profile. So instead of making all these adjustments and stuff, it's not a big deal, but I think it'll be easier for me just to hand hold this and then cut out the profile, and then we'll be good. So I'm gonna skip this part this time. So get back on in here and get a view of what I'm doing. Okay, so let me kick the dust collector back on. Kick the grinder back on. Get my gloves back on. Adjust this tracking. So when I'm doing my profiles, I tend to use the edges of the belt because it just cuts a little quicker. I'm a little off of the apex, but that's okay. Track this back over. I gotta get the corner in here. Okay, I think we're close enough on that. So these are the times I really wish I had an induction forge, because what I'm thinking I want to do, I have plenty of length on the tang, but I really don't want to have to grind all this down to thickness. So I kind of feel like since I have to heat this tang up to straighten it anyway, I might just heat this up and then hit this with the butcher dies just to push some more material down into the tang area. That way I could actually create a threaded rod that's actually tang, if that makes sense, instead of having to braze one on. So I got to figure that part out, because I'm going to have to grind anyway, because the butcher dies won't make a perfect 90 degree, so there'll be a little grinding anyway. But I'm not sure. I might just grind. I don't know. I have options. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, all right. I figured I'd get this ricasso filed out while I tried to make a decision on the heating and forging part. And I think I'm just gonna grind it. I feel like I'll run into more issues if I try to forge this down a little bit. So it's just gonna be some grinding. Just gonna see if I can get this hot enough with the MAP gas, so I have to bust out the oxyacetylene or turn on the forge. Although the forge will feel nice in here because it's a little chilly. But this might work. It'll take a minute, but we'll see what happens. Just wanted to tweak this a little bit before grinding. I think that's close enough for now. If it needs to be adjusted later, we can just do this again. I'm just going to clean up this back end a little bit. Maybe this back end square a bit. Pretty square. All right. So it looks like I'm going to have to pull this back just a little bit more. Kind of shooting up still a hair. But I've got this guard pretty squared up, really close. I'm actually going to see if I can fit one of my file guides on here. It's going to be close. We'll see. It's mainly the thickness that I'm worried about, but might be able to get one on there just to clean up all these shoulders and then the top of this just a little bit. So one thing I kind of did mess up on, actually let's go over to the table and we'll talk about it. So one thing I did mess up on is when I was cleaning up the backside of this in the forging, I had a little dip that actually forced me to bring this a little farther down than I wanted to. So you can see this ricasso is I mean it's fine, but it's a little larger than what I would typically do. You can see I think it's still going to be just fine, but I wasn't thinking that I had to bring this material back this way, and I didn't have to go all the way down to that where that little forging goof was. So I would have been fine staying farther up, but whatever the case, we're still in a pretty good spot. So anyway, you can see up here, I've still got to bring this back just a little bit more, because in comparison to the spine, it kind of goes uphill just a little bit. We should, I mean, maybe, yeah, it might be fine. I don't know. We'll get it all figured out. But I'm going to see if I can get a file guide on this. And if I can, it's going to be way easier to get all these flats where I need them to, up here, and then the shoulders. And then once that's done, I'll probably do just a little bit of rough bevel grinding, and then it's got to be ready for the heat treat. So here's my larger file guide. So we'll get these. It's probably going to fit in there. I think we should be all right. If it does, it's going to make life a lot easier. Maybe. Yeah, if these pins... Yeah, I just might get longer screws and longer pins. Oh, we're good. Holy crap, it's gonna work. I love it. But anyway, let me get this situated in here the way it needs to be situated. And now that I know this fits around the guard, it's not so imperative that I get all this done before the heat treatment either. But here's another thing. Once I get it on here, you can see how unsquare everything is, which is fine. I just need it square enough that I can get everything ground down to where I need it to. You can see also we're not quite square or perpendicular with the spine of the knife, which is okay. It doesn't have to be a perfect 90. We'll just have a little more downward drop on the recurve. So feeling this, I think we're good here. So we're just going to snug this guy down. And then maybe throw a 120 grit onto the grinder and then clean these up. Then we'll flip it around, clean the back end up. And what I'll probably do is spray this with some red dicum or blue dicum and then scribe a nice square line so that I can get this really square to the top. So get the 36 grit off. Trying to find a 120 that's a little more worn down. I have one over there, but it's kind of new, and I don't need new. I got a few over here that are. Yeah, there we go. I found some. This is why I have such a hard time throwing belts away, because I know every now and again I need one that's kind of worn to do this kind of stuff. A nice fresh belt. I don't think it's gonna do much to the file guard, but I like the worn down ones when I'm working with the file guard. So here we go again. I'm not gonna worry about the dust collector because I'll be quick. Get this cracked. Want it really close to that edge. You can see we're almost got this nice and flat. Feels good to me. Get this other side. Need a little more light in here. Can't quite see what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to be able, I'm not going to be able to get into there. Maybe if I crack this over a little bit. I don't even know if I need to get into there. Yeah. So next time I do this after the heat treat, I'm probably going to have to go just a little bit lower because I'm not quite hitting the front spot. I just need to be able to hit to about here because the rest of this is going to have a little drop to it. Anyway, let's get this back up to the edge and then catch the size of this a little bit. Okay. We're good right there. We're pretty clean. And yeah, this blade's still gonna get, kick this off. So this blade's still gonna get thinned down a little bit. Just not by much, but just it's gonna get thinned down. So knowing that I can fit my file guide on here, again, makes it really nice knowing that I can do this after the heat treat. Popped a little layout fluid on here. Somebody in one of my last videos asked me what this tool is right here that I use to scribe my bevel lines. So I'll add this, and sorry, I can't remember exactly who you are. I could look it up again, but I'm out here in the middle of a video. You know who you are, and I really appreciate you, commenting, asking questions and stuff like that. So anyway, these are dividers, and I'll try to find these. I'm pretty sure I got them on Amazon, so I'll find these and pop the link down in my description where I place the rest of my affiliate links. If you are gonna buy this stuff, it does help the channel slightly. To click the link, I get a super small commission off of it. I mean, nothing to write home about, but it's fair. It's fair. I'm not doing anything but using the tool and providing a link for it, so I don't expect a huge amount. But anyway, dividers, that's what these are. So I'm just going to use these to pop a line on here so that I can keep my boy, I'm having issues with names today. My file guide on here so I can keep it square with the top of it. So slide this guy in here. And then get it. Let me flip this around. I got a longer line on this side. Anyway, so I'm going to get this parallel with the line, or somewhat parallel. And then we're going to head back over to the grinder to get these shoulders ground in all nice and neat. This is hard to see. Again, when I'm trying to film this stuff, it makes it a little more difficult because I'm trying to keep it in frame, but at the same time do the stuff right. So sometimes it gets a little difficult. So I'm thinking that's kind of looking pretty close. This most likely isn't my final thickness either. It might be, but this is my little template for my guard, so I can keep things kind of consistent when I do these. I even have a little template for the handle. So when I'm trying to make these, because somebody likes them, I like to try to keep them consistent. So I do have templates. So snug this down. Then I can always take a pair of calipers and slide them back here on the back side. See how deep I am. 1/4 inch. And then come up to the front side. See how deep I am. Maybe. Oh, because I'm an idiot. There we go. And we're 1/4 inch, so nice and square. All right, here we go again. Back over to the grinder. So this front section's not super critical. I'm actually going to put an 80 grit on this, so there's a decent amount of material to take off. Anyway, the front's not super critical because it's going to be, we're only going to come to about here with the handle. The rest is going to be, it's going to have a little finger groove cut out there. So, but I mean, I'm still going to get it to where it needs to be. Here we go. Now I'm going to throw the 80 grit on there. Okay. I think we're good. Did a little bit of work off camera. So 36 grit is back on here. And I went across this blade with a 120 grit. And I took a little thickness off the front of this to get it so it was nice and centered. And even, somewhat even anyway. And then I put some center scribe lines on here, and then I put some bevel scribe lines on here, and I'm just going to do a quick rough grind just to thin up the edge for the to get it ready for the heat treat. This part definitely isn't necessary, but sometimes I do it depending on the knife. And I'm going to stay away from this back area right here. I'll probably get a little closer than that, but I just want to keep that intact so that I have space to grind when I do my final grind and not go past where I want to go past. We're good on this side. Track over here. I've shown this before, and I'll show it in the next video, the grinding video. When you're trying to get your curves on the recurve, the convex area, the concave area, when you grind that spot, you turn your blade so it's not quite parallel with the grinder. That way you're just basically grinding with the inside, so you don't have a whole flat. But I'll show you more in this video. Ooh, I got a little crazy with this side. A little bit too thin on this side. I'm still not to the center point, but I'm not going to grind it that thin, so have to make a few adjustments on the rough grind. Scoot this back just a little bit. This plunge line. Alright. I think I'm good right there. Okay, with that, let's head back over to the bench. All right, there we are. It's looking good. It's getting to where we want it. It looks a lot better than it did when we started. Anyway, I think we're going to end the video here because, man, I wanted to do this whole build just kind of me not trying to explain what I'm doing. I mean, a little explaining, but more just doing, and then you can like kind of watch it. But I just cannot keep words from falling out of my face hole for the life of me. I don't know why. I'm sure I inherited that from my dad, but whatever the case, we're going to call this good right here. So, we got the profile, we got the guard down to pretty close to starting dimensions of the shaping. Blade thickness is good. The point's a little off. It's kind of pointing that direction, but still plenty of thickness to get that where we need in the final grinding. So everything's roughly squared up. Not machinist square, but square enough for what we're doing here. I think the tang is going to be fine where it's at. You can see this is still a mess up front, but that's okay because this is gonna come this way and then taper to the front. And then once it gets past about here, I'm gonna do a little drop on it and then swoop it into the handle and all that good stuff. So obviously this thing is still a little larger than it needs to be in comparison to my my template, but I just might keep this width, this thickness. I kind of think it'll be nice, but we're gonna call this one here because I can't stop talking, and this video is most likely gonna be another hour long, but hopefully not. But anyway, basically the next video is going to be a heat treat, and I'll get whatever spacer materials I may or may not use, the handle material. We'll get everything fit up, and then we can do a final grind and a final shape, and then we'll see how that goes. Whether or not I can keep that condensed to one video, I'm not sure. But anyway, as always, thanks a ton for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope this is helping people. And if you have any questions, pop them down in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it. It always helps. And we'll see you in the next video.